Hello again, everyone, and welcome to Reckless Attack. I am DM Nathan, and this is the Reckless Attack interview show where we talk to TTRPG creators we know, love, and think you might like to know and love as well. We have had a lot of fun publishing the interviews of other Reckless Attack cast members these last few weeks and have more great ones coming up. But this episode is the first real meat and potatoes episode where we get to reach out into the TTRPG creator community and embrace some of our peers and heroes who are doing great work for an hour or so. And let me tell you, this first episode is a real humdinger. The Planet Arcana Podcast is, I think, a true and exceptional gem in the D&D 5e podcast landscape. It has everything that I, at least, want in a podcast: audio quality, imaginative world building, colorful characters, general enthusiasm and joy, and emotional storytelling. It is kind of difficult to describe in many ways, but I think that is because I am a genuine fan, first and foremost, and I love so much about it that I just want to shout adjectives at everyone else until they hit play and devour it like I have. Things like tarot, neon 80s, noir, synth, fantasy, androids, feelings. But in lieu of that, I got the actual joy and privilege of sitting down with J and B, the two DMs of the show, to talk shop, covering their long friendship, self-expression in tabletop role-playing games, playing the Olympics, and so much more. As always, we spent a hunk of time together and only barely covered everything there was to cover, but I think you all will still really love this episode. They are two true inspirations for me as a creator and podcaster and person, and were somehow even more wonderful to talk to than I could have hoped. One quick disclaimer: I had some audio trouble on my end that could only be somewhat touched up on the back end. We've since fixed it for future interviews, but it's not up to our usual high standards, for which we and I apologize. If it's your first time here at Reckless Attack, our audio sounds more like this usually, or you can pop on a recent episode and you'll see the difference pretty quickly. Anyway, that is enough of a preamble. Without further ado, here's J and B from Planet Arcana. Why, hello, J and B. How are you doing?
I am B, and I am so good.
I'm J, and I'm also so good.
Yeah, that was exactly the reaction that I was hoping for, because I think that really just encapsulates. We've been talking for a little bit already, and we've just all been essentially giggling excitedly, more or less, the whole time. And it's
Buckle up.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm so excited to have this natural conversation with you.
Yeah, exactly. See, wow, you guys just know how to do it. You know, true professionals. We haven't already been talking again for 10 to 15 minutes. This is just like you picked up the phone, we hit record, and we're ready to roll. So, for those of you who don't already know, either you, skipped the episode title or skipped the first couple seconds of introduction to the podcast for some reason, or any number of things. Hi, I'm Nathan. I am here talking to the incredible, inspirational, some other I word that is positive DMs, J and B from the Planet Arcana Podcast. This is our first interview, and I specifically really wanted you guys to be our first interview because I love what you guys do so much. I love your show. All that being said, I have struggled for a long time to figure out exactly what it is, what my first question is going to be to you, because I have so many.
Oh, fun.
We are freaking so happy to be here. This is like, I can't imagine a better podcast to do this on for the first time.
Oh, agreed.
Yeah, I was going to ask, have you guys done any chats, any interviews, this kind of stuff, talking about your podcast specifically before?
Nah.
No. Yeah.
Nah.
I don't know why for a second I was like, have we? But it's kind of big time for me to be like, let me think. No, we haven't.
Well, on the other hand, as someone who has done a lot of interviews, sometimes you just black out during them. You know, it's just like, you find out after the fact, oh, I guess I talked to these people. But all of that aside, probably the best place to start is the actual, like introductions. So could you guys please introduce yourselves more officially, who you are. Let's hear your names again and your preferred pronouns and anything else that you would like to tell anyone who is listening before we get into the meat of your show, of your experience, of your perspectives, all that great stuff.
Hit it, Jay.
Hi.
You guys are so in sync.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's flawless with us. I'm Jay. Like Nathan said in that wonderful introduction, I'm one of the DMs for Planet Arcana, and my pronouns are they, them.
And I am B, and I am the other of the DMs of Planet Arcana, and my pronouns are she, her. And together, we are JBDMs.
JBDMs, that's right. That's what we've always said.
That's as they say.
I've seen all of your guys' merch that say that, and I think it really comes together well. So, I think it's got some legs to it. And I also just need to say again of just like especially hearing you guys go into your back and forth semi-podcast voice, it was just immediately made me very deeply happy. And it was just like, oh, it's happening. It's real. I'm really talking to these people. It's not just over Twitter and as if I'm having a pretend conversation with people while listening to their podcast.
It is kind of wild to I was thinking about this today, that I'm so familiar with the sound of your voice, and you and I have had a lot of chats over Instant Messenger. Do people say Instant Messenger anymore? I don't know.
AOL Instant Messenger, please, if you could please use the full God-given name of it.
Sorry, I'm so fucking old. Sorry, I actually don't know if I can swear.
Absolutely. No, we do many cusses on this show, so don't worry.
Okay, cool.
That's sweet.
Yeah, but it is just kind of a trip to know your voice so well and to have heard you, and also to have talked to you and never the twain have met.
Slowly, one step closer to true, actual IRL friendship. As much as international lines and multiple miles and a global pandemic can allow for.
Mm-hmm. I feel fancy.
Yeah.
Well, it's because you are fancy.
Thank you.
What I would like to start with, and the question that I agonized over for so long, which is going to be hilarious, what is Planet Arcana? Other than a beloved 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons actual play podcast.
Do you want to take it, B?
Okay, let me try to hit this with my best shot.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only shot you have.
Oh God, okay, here we go. Mom spaghetti. Planet Arcana is a homebrewed 5e. Jesus.
Oh no.
Okay, Planet Arcana is a homebrewed 5e campaign with an entirely manufactured world out of the brains of Jay and I. It's got neon flavors. It's got what do they call it? Atomic age.
It's got ass.
Flavors. It's got ass. It does have ass.
It does,
yeah. No, there's even in the first couple episodes, there's some butthole related content.
That is true. I forgot about the butthole specifically.
The major things that we're exploring are massive global loss and the recovery from that, and then the smaller story taking place within that. So that's my vibe.
And Jay, could you please explain and explore all the things that B didn't cover and how wrong she is in her description of your joint podcast? Do you have anything to add, contrarian, etc.?
We present a unified front.
Good, that was a test.
Yes.
We're not a podcast.
Yeah, I think the only thing that I would add is that we have a mostly non-male cast, which I think is cool. We're based in Canada, and B and I have a friendship that goes back decades. So we have a lot of years to pull from to build this. And I think that's cool.
I really do think that your guys' relationship and back and forth and comfort and delighting in the surprises that you have for each other is a big part of Planet Arcana. But in my own extolling of the virtues of your podcast, have had to throw a lot of adjectives at the wall to explain it.
You're so good at the adjectives, I gotta tell you.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, you can feel free to steal as many adjectives as I can throw around. It's noir, especially those first couple episodes. It starts with a heist. It is neon 80s. It is fantasy. It is Western. It is tarot inspired. It is cosmic. It is small. It's personal. I love kind of trying to put myself in the headspace of someone who's creating something, of cool, where did they start with this, or what ideas are they exploring? And for you guys, I have no fucking idea. it's so what you guys have come up with is so interesting, so unique, so flavorful that and so you guys, from what I can tell, that I would love to hear a little bit about how you guys met and then eventually transition to how that kind of came into Planet Arcana.
This is such a dumb story.
This is so funny.
I'm so excited already. This is already perfect.
At 2 3/4 years older than them, I was Jay's babysitter.
A responsible little kid, it sounds like.
I think it was mostly an excuse because we both moved to a new small town around the same time. So our parents, I think, very wisely identified us as being at risk.
Wayward children.
And we're
correctly assessed.
let's quote unquote hire B to babysit Jay, and hopefully they'll become friends.
And then Planet Arcana happened. Wow, good job, parents.
Yeah, so a lot of B babysitting me was us playing Mario Tennis on the N64 and many weekends of Harvest Moon. We just basically played a lot of video games together when we were young, and then we were really close. And then when we both were becoming adults, B moved to one side of the country and I moved to the other side. And then we had a few years where we just didn't talk a lot, mostly because both of us were figuring out our adult lives and,
right.
And we were so far apart. And then I kind of reached out to you, B, about starting to play some D&D.
Yeah, 6 years ago.
6 years ago, I think. We did. I remember we played D&D when we were I remember playing when I was 16.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was. I hardly remember it though.
Yeah, me too. I remember what you played.
my bard.
Yeah, your bard.
Tell me everything.
My bard's name was Mango, and he barely got off the character sheet.
Oh, you don't say. A mango, you say.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, that was a special delight to me.
The mango clearly made a large impression on you in that you vaguely remember the name, and that's about it.
Big time.
So you guys had started playing together, in your teens, basically. And that was kind of the impetus for you reaching back out and saying, hey, are you still interested in doing this, maybe?
I think it was more that, we were nerds when we were teens growing up. We would watch anime together, we would play video games together, and in those years in the aughts, it wasn't a thing that everyone was doing, and it wasn't a thing that was cool to talk about necessarily. So we we found each other, and it was more that we're just so close. And I was just starting DMing that I reached out to B just as hey, you're a close friend and I trust you to let me experiment DMing on you.
It was so good.
Oh.
Dating back to when you guys were teens and were first kind of picking it up, do you remember kind of what the first exposure was to D&D, to tabletop role-playing games, that kind of stuff, and what kind of lit the imagination fire to be wait a second, this is something I can do and we can do, and how that kind of came into being?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think for me, when I did it as a kid, I was so busy as a teen. I was just one of those kids who was I had after school band every day, and I was really social, and I just had every minute taken up. And so I had a D&D group with B's brother, actually. And I could never make the sessions because I always had a rehearsal for some band or whatever. I always wanted to do it because I just loved the idea. And I think it was kind of with shortly before the Stranger Things renaissance of D&D that I picked it up.
Yeah.
which was really lucky because I picked it up and I wanted to DM, and I had some people who were interested in trying it, but then Stranger Things hit, and then suddenly everybody wanted to try it, which was amazing, and I just had no shortage of players for a lot of years.
For me, I guess like I didn't, in those first years of playing D&D, again mostly with my brother, I didn't really see its full potential in the way that like I would end up using it later. But
Sure.
I was always like not ready to stop play acting, and like I was always pushing my friends as they were getting older to like essentially LARP with me. I'd be
Right.
like, let's
Yeah.
dress up as spies and go break into the neighbor's house and like really stupid stuff like that.
That's beautiful. I love that. I can't let that go by and not just like express my own joy that you just brought into my life for
My
sharing that.
spy
Thank you.
name was Dolahov.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. Did you have an accent?
Of course.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Cool. Just needed to check. Just needed to know that, for the records.
So, I think I hadn't found a group of people who were ready to just like do the heavy LARPing with me
Get buck
D&D.
wild. Yeah.
And then just fewer and fewer friends over the years where I was unable to find situations where I could make them LARP. Except for Jay, right, who was always down for it. And so when they were like, let's play D&D, I was like, oh my fucking God. And and it was an amazing few years in our home campaign. And so I guess Jay was really my intro into it, outside of just kind of always wanting to do it, but not making that connection that like D&D could be that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think as a team, because I never got beyond session 2, I was like, this is a numbers game.
Yeah, for sure.
So Jay, you were the DM for this kind of proto Planet Arcana group. We'll just call it for the sake of ease, right? What was that campaign about?
Actually, I'll get to this later, but my campaign was the proto to the proto Planet Arcana, and I'll get to that in a second. But basically, yeah, I had DM'd for a couple of friends here and there, and that was before B and our group. And I ran 6-hour-long sessions that I had to have like one combat, one puzzle, and one roleplay thing. And those were the sessions, and it was very rigid, and I didn't know what I was doing. And I would say they were bad, like pretty objectively terrible. Then like B and our group started playing, which ended up being Peter and Sean as well.
Oh yeah.
So the world that I built was the problem that I had with that one. It was so fun and I'm so proud of it. But like as a first time DM looking back, I realized that like it was just so complicated. Like my world building was just like so vast. Like I had a document that was like 15 pages long of like backstory, and it wasn't really necessary, but it was just like just to tie in all of these loose threads that I had. It was just really expansive. It was super fun and a great learning experience, but it's like hard to pick up now because it's just so complicated.
Yeah.
But from that, after like 3 or 4 years of playing that, B was like, I'm going to DM. And B started up a horror campaign, which we just decided for our own record keeping, we were going to record. And we recorded out of our computer mics. And first of all, how many sessions did we do of that? Like 3?
3. It was 3.
Those were the
on purpose?
Well, we started Planet Arcana.
Oh, yep, got it.
But those 3 sessions are maybe the most memorable sessions I've ever played. Like it was the most magical thing I've ever experienced, was B DMing this horror campaign, which was so legitimately frightening, like to the point where like I had to have a drink after sessions and like decompress, and I'd have nightmares. It freaking rocked. But just like we just recorded it just for fun and realized that it worked, and we were like,
Yeah. Yeah. What was the, give us the elevator pitch of what that campaign was, B.
So it was framed around an actual real world incident mystery called the Vela incident, which was 2 like giant flashes that were recorded like just above the Antarctic. And basically like I had them develop characters. We had I made some like homebrew classes, and then I incorporated their characters' backstories very deeply into the story in a way that they still don't know the resolution of. But basically, they each got a message that was like, hey, for various reasons, I'm putting pressure on you to come out to this island and work for me and solve the mystery of the Vela incident. And there's like a guy waiting for them on a ship, and there's all these weird rules for the island, like don't look the goats in the eyes. And then they were set loose on the island to basically solve the real life Vela incident mystery, which I had a fictitious solution for.
Well, I guess I will just have to not be excited about potentially playing that in my own self. We did the same thing, actually. I threw a cell phone out in the middle of the table just so that I would have it. So at what point, like, was there a moment where you guys kind of, looked at each other, either collectively, individually, whatever, and said, hey, so what if we did this, but for real?
Yep.
Do you remember that moment and that kind of conversation, or that what went into that realization?
I do. It was listening to Jay's edit. Like, I don't know, it felt like I wasn't there and I was listening to it for the first time, because I could see so much of their character and creativity and like cinematic vision in the way that they put it together. And I was like, my God, like, what if Jay was like editing a campaign that they were DMing and like I was involved somehow?
Aw.
So did you approach Jay and say like, hey, I had these kind of feelings about official podcasting?
I think I said the words double DM,
yes.
And then like a day later they
I was like, how can we sell this for money?
Every great podcaster's tale, right, always starts with those 6 or 7 words or whatever.
Well, we had actually been like trying to come up with an idea to do a podcast together just as a project, and then be throughout like, one day I'd love to double DM a campaign with you, and then that was that.
That was it. It was just, that was the final straw of like, okay, this is what we're doing, moving forward, boom. Did you at that point, and we didn't really talk about it directly, but we kind of did in the intro, you guys are both the DMs of the Planet Arcana podcast. So at this point, at this tipping point where you had the phrase, double DMs, and you had a vague idea of like, yes, and this will be directed towards a podcast, did you have any idea at that point what that kind of system might look like, and how did that change?
We had a couple meetings that we just were throwing out ideas, and like, we were talking about it. We had a quick alignment meeting before this, and we were talking about some of the first ideas for the podcast before it became what it was. And I can't remember like any of them. The only thing I have in front of me is the 5-word pitch, but you had all of these things that you remember like talking about.
Yeah. Give the 5-word pitch for sure, because I love that.
Yes.
So
that was one of the things I almost started with, because you guys told me that on Twitter, that you had a 5-word pitch to the players. And I have been losing my mind wanting to know it ever since. So this is what the whole episode revolves around as far as Nathan's concerned.
Well, it's kind of weird because you might be not disappointed, but it's like, it's not, it just changed so much. But here's the original from our very first meeting back in January, I think. The 5-word pitch that we had was scary neon nautical cowboy bebop.
I mean, but yes, and it has changed, but also... that's Planet Arcana.
I think aside from that, the few things that were like there in the first meeting that like stayed were, we wanted a heist. We wanted it to take place in a city that our working name for it was, what was the working name, Jay?
Like the full name?
Neon. Yeah, exactly.
Tropical Port City Neon New Vegas,
which became Tropo Neo Vega.
Oh my God.
The players actually don't know that either.
Once again, I am brought to just sheer joy of this new fresh knowledge.
And then we wanted humans and androids, the tarot major arcana, and then we knew we wanted characters called Team Sprocket.
and boy, you got him.
Yep.
Yep. I'm actually looking at our world building notes from that, and I like, there's in quotation marks underneath that, the big oops, hero's journey, aquatic human.
I mean, and you checked all it off, so truly visionaries. Maybe I'm assuming, but it seems like you were, kind of throwing out a lot of vibes and aesthetics a little bit is kind of what a lot of it kind of comes down to, at least in terms of the 5-word pitch portion. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, for sure.
But what about that mash of genres really called to you guys? Or was it just as simple as these are all cool things and we want that?
B is super stylistic. Like everything she does is aesthetic in just exactly the right way. And so it's really easy to work with her on that kind of stuff, where all the monster reflavorings have been B, because she's really, really fucking good at, first of all, like just reflavoring any of the monsters in the monster manual, but also making it really funny.
Yeah.
So as far as the aesthetic stuffs go, I'm going to pass it over to B, but I just want to say that, like, B, you are the flavor and the style master for sure.
Well, I mean, a lot of my flavor comes from like our mutual tastes, so I'll just say that. But I think like the vibiness and the aestheticness also comes just from a general attachment to working with archetypes.
Yeah.
Which is a big reason why we used the Major Arcana for our Pantheon, because it's so fun when everybody just kind of recognizes an archetype and then you get to divert it or combine it with something absurd. So you have that combination of things that are accessible and things that are, tailored to you and your tastes.
I had never been able to quite put it well, or you have the right word for it, but I think archetype really is the perfect word for, I think, what makes a lot of your guys's descriptions, NPCs, location, you name it, anything that you guys are describing and kind of creating, but not in the kind of tropey way, but in the, exactly who these people are and what they look like. And I think you guys are phenomenal at just layering that in, archetype on top of archetype on top of archetype, in a way that makes your world feel very deep, very unique, but also believable and real all at the same time, which is really, really a magic feat as far as I'm concerned.
That is a nice thing coming from the Stacking Podcast master.
And let it be on the record that your example was, yes, the Frog Stack Podcast. Indeed. That is how I feel compared to the Planet Arcana Podcast.
Oh,
we love the Frog Stack. We love it.
I appreciate it, and I will refrain from being jerky mean about my own things.
We will beat you up, Nathan.
Nathan will fucking do it. We'll
fuck you up.
We will get our passports. We will fly over. Yeah. As you guys were taking all of these different influences, as you are, picking out your style, you're choosing what's interesting to you. Was there any particular themes or stories or whatever that you guys wanted to explore, that you found yourselves drawn to, that you're like, okay, here's kind of what we want this story or this campaign or this world to really be about, if that makes sense?
That's a really good question.
You want to lead this one, Jay?
I'm thinking, if you have something, you should go.
Okay. Well, I mean, first, I think that a lot of the direction that it's been going has been really player-led.
Yes.
For sure. Like things
more so every episode. It's incredible.
And they are absolute freaking stars in that regard, every single one of them. So like that really feeds into what we end up planning for later, but it kind of also ended up aligning with, like, I guess the overall themes and arcs that we built for the world, which would be like identity and loss, with the big oops being this whole loss, and there's themes of like true names and how you build a family and all that sort of stuff.
I was noticing too, this is like a much more minor piece of that, but like I was thinking today about like all of the campaigns I've run, and especially Planet Arcana, I love to incorporate either shape-shifting or body modification into campaigns. I play with that a lot, and it's interesting because I am non-binary and I am trans, and I think that like that there's like a part of my brain that's like really interested in, exploring that kind of stuff too. So it's pretty cool to have like modded humans and symbiotes as people who like can just change their parts. and be what they want to be.
Yeah, I've really loved that about your podcast as well. Just how built in it is and how natural it is, and that's definitely something I strive for our podcast and for any campaign I'm running. Right, it's just like, this is just a fact of life, and it just is how it is. And I really love the ways that you guys do it. And I noticed it. I noticed that I hadn't noticed it, if that makes sense. You know, where like I suddenly noticed like, oh yeah, well, like I see, well, this is a theme. And it's just interesting that it's so interwoven that it is just a fact, but it just feels so natural, which I think speaks very well to how integrated it is.
That is nice.
I only just say true things. So as you were getting ready, you had the idea, we're going to be 2 DMs, right? Like whatever that means, that's what we're doing. So how have you guys found, and how are you guys still finding, I'd imagine, the balance between who does what your creative process is like? Do you divide tasks? Do you come together to say, okay, here's kind of what we think we want to build. I'll do this. What does that look like? Putting together a campaign, putting together an arc, an NPC, whatever.
The first thing I'm going to say about this is that our system works because we have known each other and worked with each other on artistic projects for literally over 2 decades. And it's like, whenever I talk to people about double DMing, I'm very hesitant to give advice because like we know each other so well that I mean, I've never tried it with someone else, so maybe it is just as easy as we make it, but there's also like a lot of pieces of it that just work because we know each other deeply.
I wish I could exchange a glance with you right now.
Yes.
I feel like, but spiritually, that's how close you are, is that you can spiritually exchange a glance, and it still works.
I felt it.
Yes.
If I were to like put film set roles on it to describe the labor of division, Jay would, I mean, first of all, they're the editor, they're the composer and mixer and performer of all of the music, with very few exceptions.
Yep, I was going to say, we'll do a quick sidebar of just so that our listeners know, and so it does not go unsaid. I think all of your guys' music, right, is done by you, Jay. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, and it's really good music. So I just could not let that like not be said by the end of the interview.
Time. So like that is like a massive thing that has like also helped define the aesthetic of the world so much, and like transforms the episodes after we hear them. They would also probably be considered, I mean, I guess a director, a producer, a co-writer, like literally several actors, many actors. And I would sort of like dabble in some of those roles, not music, not editing. And then I guess I would be art director. So that's my spread. That's how I would describe it.
Oh, that is really kind. I would say that there is some pretty like clear delineations of what the two of us excel in, that we sometimes will jump over to the other side to maybe like if someone's busy before a session, or we've like recently tried to do some more of that, because I know for me, writing, like prose writing, is not my strong suit, but B is really freaking good at it. And we prepare our sessions in scripts. This is maybe too behind the screen. Basically, we'll like in the weeks before, we'll kind of just like jot down a bunch of notes, usually together. And then if there's like combat, I typically will take care of like the actual statting out, but not exclusively. And B will typically do the like description writing, which are beautiful. And I would say that's a huge part of like the artistic vision. As art director of the podcast, it's very clear that you freaking kill it on that.
Aww.
Yeah, but it is very collaborative, though. Like for me, I love to do combat and mechanics, and I don't love to do writing, but I will.
That always struck me, and I like to joke around on Twitter, and I hope the people who I do it at know that I'm joking around, but of saying, when I consume something that I deeply love and admire and almost like can see as a thing that, oh man, I wish I did that, or I wish I could have done that or something, that I say I'm very angry about it. And I think the thing I'm most often angry about when I'm listening to the Planet Arcana podcast is exactly those descriptions. And the level of detail and care that you do to describe things, to do so succinctly, but with as much flavor as you possibly can with an economy of words, is always really impressive. And I think a huge part of at least why I really, really love the podcast, for sure.
I would totally agree. Like, B is so good at word economy is exactly the thing. It's so evocative, and you just pick exactly what needs to be said. And also, like, if whenever I have to write something for the podcast, I'll like slip it to B a couple days before it's due, and I'm like, finish this up, and then it's just like,
can you just make this better, please?
And it comes out a lot better
I get that.
single time.
Oh,
so it's all right. Feel your feelings for a moment. Do you guys go so far? And I think I know the answer because you call it out pretty specifically sometimes. Do you just essentially divvy up work and say, like, okay, you will be this NPC, I will take this description, I will run this combat, but you will run this particular monster in the combat? Do you guys get down to kind of that level of coordination and organization ahead of time?
Yeah, it's, I mean,
Easy,
you have
cool.
to with two DMs because we don't want to step on each other's toes. So it's just kind of easier to have that delineated beforehand.
but a lot of it doesn't end up being that way at the same time. So 60-40.
It is really freaking great, though. One of my favorite things about double DMing is that, like, if we have a section where I'm running it in quotation marks, that's basically like, I'm going to call for the rolls, I'll describe things that the players are seeing, and then that's all I have to do. And like, if they ever run into some random ass NPC, which happens all the time with players, then I literally have an extra person to do all the voices and like, to flesh out the world in that way. And same with combat, where it's so chill to run a combat where I run initiative, like keep track of like HP and stuff like that.
Yep.
And like B is running like one of the major, and I can run all like the wieners, and B can run like the actual, sorry, that's my technical term.
I was gonna say, now I'm just imagining an initiative tracker wherein there's one named whatever monster, and then just wieners are the filler characters in it. Which, like, that's what I'm doing now.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they are, right? Like, B runs the main villain, I run the wieners, and it's a good time.
And it works.
It is, like, it does, that helps so much to just, like for us, we record 4-hour-long sessions, which is, it's a long time when you're running, like, a podcast-based thing where, like, you have to get in as much story beats as possible. It, like, makes it so that I don't feel like I've been hit by a truck after a session, like I normally do.
I feel like I'm probably leaving so many other Planet Arcana and double DMing questions on the table, but that's because I could just ask them for 400 million years. What I kind of want to talk a little bit about now is a little bit of the things that interest you guys and excite you guys in terms of storytelling, in terms of role-playing games, in terms of kind of the process of it. So do you have any kind of pieces of media that you can kind of point to as like, yes, this is has been really influential on me, on Planet Arcana, on anything?
We'll have the same answers for this. I'd say for me, my tops are Studio Ghibli and Final Fantasy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Ghibli, especially when I discovered like the comic version of Nazca of the Valley of the Wind. That was freaking massive for me. And a few years before that, watching just Neon Genesis Evangelion Death and Rebirth and not the series, I was like 11 or something, or 12, and I like watched it at my grandma's house on a tiny TV. I got up at 3 a.m. because I knew there was going to be some stuff she wouldn't like, and I had no idea what I was looking at, and like the next day I was trying to describe to my brother like why I was crying, and and I couldn't. I honestly didn't understand anything of what I saw, but I understood the archetypes. And I have feelings about Evangelion that could fill an episode of something, but
we can start a spin-off podcast.
Feelings on Evangelion.
Yeah, I mean,
is Hideaki Anno okay?
I mean, let's stop talking about that podcast only so that no one steals our idea while we're in pre-production for it.
But yeah, Ghibli also, like, they do a lot of subverting of archetypes, and I love it. And Final Fantasy, that's just kind of what made me, I'm like, I want to make a Final Fantasy.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like D&D is the closest thing you can get to making your own Final Fantasy.
Big time.
If you don't want to learn how to code, that is.
Yeah.
And I don't.
What kind of work did you guys do to take base 5e to be Planet Arcana 5e? Especially, I'm curious what the level of input from the players and stuff was for that kind of thing. Because you guys recorded everyone choosing their characters and talking through that, and I really enjoyed listening to it. But was there any part that they were playing in terms of kind of shaping that? And I guess shaping all of Planet Arcana? Or was it kind of like, hey, we'll do that work for you guys, and here's the thing, and we can just run with it?
Oh, go ahead, B.
Oh, no, you go. That was just a reflective noise.
We kind of just kept making iterations of, we have our own Planet Arcana player's guide because the races that we play with are completely homebrewed. Like, they're not reskinning of.
I was curious.
Actually, there is one that's pretty close, but I don't want to say because what we're trying to. Hopefully, we can sell it at some point. That's the name of the game. But yeah, we did we completely homebrewed everything. We made new backgrounds for the world. Actually. Riot, Sky plays Riot, and Riot's back. Actually, Riot and Celestine both have our own homebrewed backgrounds. Peter is playing like a pilot or something like that, and Sky is playing an influencer.
Yeah.
So we have like a full out written guide. It's funny that I started the podcast by being like, my first DMing foray was too complicated, and I'm like,
here's the setting book.
Yeah, but we something that's funny is like we sent them guides, and like they just kind of helped us with the mechanics and stuff like that. And like I think we worked as hard on the vehicles as we did on like the races, and the vehicles have come up like not that many times, and we have like a full book on how the vehicles work.
Man, story of every DM, right?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, they I would say that the players more helped shaped our overarching story, and we kind of did like the mechanics up front.
Got it. Yeah, and I was curious, what did at that kind of first pitch, not necessarily of like, hey, do you want to do a podcast, but of, hey, do you want to do a podcast, and here's kind of what we were thinking flavor wise, here's the 5-word pitch, all that good stuff. How much did you tell them at that point, and kind of what was the amount of information that you gave them, especially because the world you guys are running in is so specific and so unique?
They do what we tell them.
Well, the other thing too is that 2 of the players live with us because we're romantically involved with each other.
Well, man, Jay, when you put it that way, it really does sound just beautiful and meaningful, and I'm tearing up a little. I don't know how to make
that sound normal, but it does feel relevant to me because we didn't really, like, for Sean and Peter, we didn't have to pitch it to them so much as like it was just kind of a thing that we were doing.
Right.
We more pitched it to Sky, who we brought in early on, obviously, but like none of us live with Sky yet.
a full Canadian RPG commune is coming.
Oh my god, that would be amazing. Yeah, that sounds amazing.
With this all audio, you can't see me, but I'm being very serious.
Yeah.
And you can even call it Planet Arcana.
Oh my god.
Like, have a little sign.
Oh.
Anyway.
Oh, that sounds amazing. Oh yeah. We could be so Canadian.
It was, oh my god, I gotta say, it was so funny. I don't remember what it was, but I said something on Twitter of saying something about how Canadian you guys are, essentially, and that I could hear your accents every once in a while, and that either you were either fake or for real surprised that was the case. Like,
I
blew my
was
mind,
for
and
real
it just like
surprised.
delighted me.
For real.
I thought it was truly hilarious, and it's like, no, they're super Canadian. Like, it's not like someone's on SNL doing an impersonation, but like, no, it's for sure.
I love that. I feel
Me
like
too.
Canadians notoriously don't know they have an accent.
Yeah. I feel like one of us has a stronger accent than the rest.
Yeah.
I would say that title shifts from episode to episode and moment to moment. We're just sometimes and maybe it's just I don't catch it every time, because obviously I'm not listening for it. Maybe I will now. Who's to say? Maybe now I've self-ruined my whole Planet Arcana experience. But it's funny how actually much it shifts around sometimes. Just like, ooh, B just dropped into an ooh kind of sound or what have you. But that's not important right now.
Oh, I love
It is
though.
important.
I love it.
Something I really enjoy hearing from people is what their creative or tabletop role-playing game kind of heroes, mentors, inspirations, or even just kind of, I don't know what the right word beyond inspiration is. Maybe just someone who kind of like imprinted on you in a way, of like, oh, okay, cool. This is how it can be done. Heroes, mentors, that kind of thing in this space that you really look up to or were really formative for you guys in terms of getting to be the players and DMs you are today.
Jay all the way.
Oh, I thought you were telling me to answer.
I wasn't sure either.
No, I know that's a bit of a cop-out, but like, having played with like literally no other groups except my brother, they saved me from many, I don't know. I feel like a lot of people who want to get into it and just have to go in cold with like people they don't know. There's a lot of bad experiences that you have to slog through to get to like a sweet spot. And I never had to go through that. Like, I'm sort of this blessed, privileged little freaking D&D sprite that like just had, I know that Jay, like, you've got your complaints about like the world that you built, but like the experience for me was just like literally every time Peter and I would just talk about it for like 2 hours after we played and be like, oh my God. And then when Jay did this and then when Jay did that. And, continuing to Planet Arcana, like it's just a constant like lesson in good DMing and just being like a good, I don't know, they ask the right questions, they consider the right things. They're so vigilant about like what the players might be thinking or feeling and like how much we need to give them and let them be. It's a cop out, but I can't say anyone but Jay.
Oh my God. Holy shit.
That's right.
Oh, my answer sucks.
Jay's gonna be like, well, it's Matthew Mercer, and sorry, B.
Oh my God. That's so freaking nice. Like, mine is not that sentimental. Probably Allie Beardsley from Dimension 20, because they were like the first person that I saw who was doing like a D&D stream who was non-binary and like I've seen them play like trans men characters. I've seen them play female characters. I've seen them play non-binary characters. I've kind of seen them do the range. And for me, like that was a big part of me finding my gender identity was DMing and like trying on in a 3-hour session, I'd try on a bunch of genders and like that. And it came after I was like, uh-oh. But it was really cool to see someone in like the public eye who was doing something nerdy that I like to do that because there's not a lot of like big, I think there are now, it's getting better, but like 5 or so years ago it was that just wasn't the face of D&D.
No, I mean, you could say 2 years ago, I think, and still be pretty accurate, I feel like.
Yeah, I would agree with that for sure.
That reminded me of a question that I meant to ask earlier, or didn't have the chance to really fold in. So you guys have obviously, like you said, known each other for a long time. You've collaborated for a very long time. Has your relationship changed, or how has it changed or evolved as you've been kind of doing this, this on display public project, this, I would assume, very intensive project for the both of you? What has it done to and for your relationship?
Ooh. Well, it's not our first public-facing performance project together.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Don't mind me. I'm just gonna get ready to Google things, but then be ready for you to tell me it's like a school play.
Yeah.
I don't. If you're not comfortable talking about this, we totally don't have to.
No, that's
but-
totally fine because there's like zero recorded evidence of it out there. So
Yeah, so when we were younger, we grew up in a, like, how comfortable are you to divulge, like, the location be? Oh, I don't have to.
let's
if you
be
don't want to.
mysterious with the locations.
Done.
We grew up in a
The
small
wilds
town.
of Canada.
We grew up in Twin Peaks, essentially.
Yeah, we grew up in Twin Peaks, Canada together. When I think I was like 18-ish and you were, so I was like just finishing up high school and you were out of high school, or whatever, it doesn't matter. We did a little competition that was called Twin Peaks Idol, in which B sang and I played bass to back her up, and we entered it as a whim, and then we won. And then we suddenly had gigs all over the small town playing for like the Canada Day Parade, and I think we did like a kid's birthday. Do you remember?
We did
that?
a birthday. We did the freaking the Olympics when they carried the torch.
That's right.
What?
Yes, that's right.
Wait, what do you mean you did the Olympics?
Just when they came through our small town with the torch, you know?
Yeah, we did a song.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
I mean, still, but also you can't just like say the words "we did the Olympics" and
We
just
did
like
Olympics.
leave it there.
But it sounds so much bigger that way.
It does.
Well, right,
yes.
but it is my journalistic duty to then ask follow-up questions because like I can't just be like, sure, I have no further interest in what you just said.
We went to the Olympics. Google us.
We were both creative kids, but that was our first like project together, and I think it was weekly.
Yeah.
And it was like every Saturday night, and we'd have to prepare a few songs, and then by the end we'd have to prepare like a few extra songs, and it was just like every week we were like, oh, we made it to the next round, oh, we made it to the next round, and then the last week and then we won $2,000.
Whoa,
It was huge.
that's not nothing for some like 18 to 20-year-olds.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
it was. We went vintage shopping we took a Greyhound bus to a city, and we went vintage shopping and stayed in a hostel.
Oh my god, you beautiful hipsters.
Yeah. So it's not our first creative project together, basically.
I mean, no, you know how I feel about Planet Arcana, but I would say it's your maybe second most, most successful creative endeavor together at this point.
Oh my god.
That's right.
Your award-winning, song duet team, basically.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. It's always been a good vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah, in terms of like how it's changed, I don't know. I guess it's maybe more like a more self-reflective change. Like less so in like how I relate to Jay, and like more so how I cope with listening back to things and loving them and regretting
Sure.
them and coming to terms with that and just not caring anymore.
I think that's important.
Yeah. I think I'm the only person on the podcast who likes the sound of my voice. Potentially.
It's a curse that most of us bear, and good for you for not being a part of it.
We all really
thank
like
you.
each other's voices.
Yeah. I mean, I love your guys' voices too. I just also like mine.
Yeah, it's not exclusionary. It's just you don't have the particular hang up about your own.
I've also been a musician for a long time and done a lot of recording, so I think I have some practice hearing myself back.
That also leads me to wonder, especially as a DM, certainly for me, I definitely try to be learning a lot, right? Whether learning at the table, learning upon reflection, learning as I'm listening to other podcasts or whatever, learning from movies. I would imagine with two DMs, you're sitting there actively and you're preparing with them actively and you're getting insight into their brain and you're seeing what they're coming up with on the fly. Is there anything or any things that you guys playing together for however long it's been now, I guess close to at least all of 2021 basically, that you have picked up from one another?
I've learned a lot about narration from B.
Oh. I'm just going to gesture in general to my answer about my TTRPG mentor.
Yeah.
I feel like I've learned
that's
like
fair.
a lot of what I now do well that I didn't do well before from Jay.
I'd love to expand this too, because I've learned a lot about like taking chaotic moves from Sean. Sean is the most chaotic.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean this in
Thank you.
the nicest way possible, but Sean is the little chaos gremlin in every campaign that we do. He is so chaotic, you never know what he's going to do, and it makes me a better DM, but it also just like it inspires me to be more chaotic because I'm very lawful in real life.
Yes.
From Sky, I've learned a lot about like taking big swings at the story, because she is not afraid, like, and she's always been like this when I've played with her, that she'll like, you'll drop a little nugget for her to take an improv with, and she'll she'll take it and she'll turn that nugget into a full-on
Big time
basket of chicken wings.
Classic Canadian, saying, exactly.
a big old bag of milk.
And I mean, Peter's acting chops are so outstanding. I've learned a lot of like doing beats from him, and I love to go to Peter and talk to him about mechanics. We talk a lot about mechanics. So I think I can relate to Peter the most as a player, because him and I think are more on the lawful side, and we both like mechanics. And Peter is also really freaking good at making a really mechanically great character that also has a ton of flavor. And and then from B, I've learned a ton about narration. I've learned a ton about prose and writing well and writing concisely. And the way that you do NPCs constantly inspires me. And
The same.
yeah. So
Likewise.
I've learned a bit from everybody, I would say.
On the topic of players, I also have, I don't know if I've learned a lot from this, but I admire so much the consistency in the voice acting that Sky brings to her character.
Oh my God.
Which is something.
Every time I am, holy shit, I might, is that not her voice? I'm not, are you sure that's not how she just talks all the time?
It's
because,
so
oh my God.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Yeah, and then like from Sean, the chaos thing, but like specifically how to marry that with somebody who's the like emotional core of a group, because he was that as well in our homebrew campaign in a very different way. Chaos, but also like massive lovability and like being this glue that like keeps the other players adhered to a team. Also, Peter's pretty cool. He's my husband. Hello.
I have so many things really quickly to follow up on that. Just first and foremost, I want to make it exceptionally clear to all the listeners that if I thought I could do a good job of interviewing literally everyone on Planet Arcana all at once, I would be doing that. Because the players are tremendous. Literally every episode better. I think they've all had individual incredible moments for fun, for drama, for you name it. It's been really cool to watch everyone somehow start strong and settle in and get even better.
Oh yeah, I'm so proud of them, all of them.
As well you should be, and as well they should be of themselves.
Oh, that's nice.
Have you ever gotten emotional playing tabletop role-playing games that have really, really stuck with you and made you feel real human out of game feelings?
I mean, yes.
Yeah.
What to talk about?
A highlight for me is when like my homebrew character's ex showed up and like I'd spent the entire campaign like longingly thinking of her, and I'd betrayed her, and then Jay showed up as her and just immediately tried to stab me, and I deserved it. And then I like had a song prepared that was for my ex, and then they surprised me with the song back to me in that,
oh my God,
in this similar style but not the same style, and it was super emotional, and that crushed me for days.
Oh, that was
Jesus.
a fun one.
You guys are really good at this.
I mean, also when we played Anamnesis, which is something that we did with Sam Lee.
Yes.
That
phenomenal episode.
Yeah, our real life tears were on the podcast.
Yep.
But yeah, I feel like I get emotional a lot we had a moment in the Homebrew campaign where Peter's character accidentally died.
Oh God.
Can I talk about this, or do you want to talk about it, Pete?
No, you talk about it.
Okay. So here's the thing: is that it was a Christmas session, and we were playing
where everyone knows body counts are at their highest. It's like Tomb of Horrors Christmas sessions 1 and 2.
It was right before Christmas, and B and Peter had gotten each other gifts as their characters. So there was all these gifts to Peter's character. We had this session where it was like right before they were going to open all the gifts, and just it doesn't really matter how, but it was kind of an accident. And Peter's character died. It was just like suddenly like we were like, let's play D&D for Christmas for fun. It's going to be such a great session. And then the whole session was just like, what do we do? What do we do?
Oh no.
And it was my fault.
It wasn't your fault. You made a choice in character, and I applaud you for it. And he did get resurrected, so everything is fine.
I mean, it's D&D, so good. Makes sense.
I was like, Christmas is ruined.
A Christmas miracle.
I will say one other thing that made me really emotional was when we did Crater's. I'll try to keep this like pretty spoiler light, but basically when Crater had his flashback, that was like an edited piece of the thing. Basically, when he says like the final line of it, he says Crater in it.
Yeah.
And I had to edit that, and it took me like a whole afternoon just to align it with the music. And every time it came back around to Sean saying Crater, I was like, oh, like fucking gut punch every time. And that was intense. But I think there's been a lot of moments like that with the players from Planet Arcana that, Planet Arcana, the podcast, sorry. I had like, okay, sorry. I need to take a moment here because my brain is just like going in circles. What I'm trying to say is that the players in Planet Arcana are good, and I love them deeply.
It's true.
That's what I was, that was the whole roundabout way of me saying that. Can we edit that out?
Hey B, could I just send you kind of the audio of this, and could you just like do your word economy thing for certainly my own contribution and whatever else Jay is interested in, adjusting.
I'm gonna set it as my ringtone.
You did, speaking of the whole like, oh, do we sound Canadian? You did say sorry 18 times in about 4 seconds.
Sorry.
Well, I had a moment where normally if someone's rambling on like that, they'll be like, Jay, cut it. And I'm like, yeah, haha, maybe I will, maybe I won't. And then I suddenly realized that I'm not editing this, and I was just like, oh no.
You are at my mercy now.
Oh my God, please make me sound good.
I will do my best. No, I'm not too worried about it. Again, I could literally just keep pulling things from you guys infinitely, but I don't want to keep you or anyone who might still be listening to this any longer than we already have. But we have a little bit of a lightning round. They are nice and quick. You don't need to think long about it. If you do, totally cool. But it can be as simple as a one-word answer. It could be, launch into a whole story. It can be no, I don't really have anything for that, or a pass, or whatever. All very valid. Did you guys ever see Inside the Actors Studio?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It is the, whatever, the 10 questions at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Except I didn't feel comfortable asking a bunch of TTRPG friends and collaborators and whatnot what turns you on and what turns you off. So I've lightly adjusted a few of those.
I'm ready to answer that though.
Well, that can be the extra bonus lightning round question. You can just scream it as I'm, signing off, and we can kind of go from there. Is your glass half full or half empty?
I would say I'm pretty a 50-50 split. Every day is different.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on the first state of the glass. So if it was empty and got filled, then it's half full. And if it was full and got drank, then it's half empty.
Okay, both very logical.
That's science, baby.
What excites you, whether it's creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
What excites me creatively is the retooling the ancient work of others. So like archetypes, I guess. Or even other people's art that currently live.
Mine is collaboration.
What does not excite you creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
What does not excite me? I don't work on anything that doesn't excite me, so I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. I can't think of anything that I've worked on that didn't fulfill me. It doesn't register.
It just doesn't happen.
Nice. I would say gatekeeping.
Oh, sick. Great answer.
I changed my answer to her answer.
Yeah.
What is your favorite sound?
Ooh, people having fun in another room while I'm having a nap.
Oh, wow. That's such a great freaking question. I guess... Oh, geez. This is hard, too. All right, I'm going to say the victory fanfare from Final Fantasy VII. The da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Excellent answer.
Thank you.
What sound do you hate?
I'm going to answer for Jay. I'm going to be bold.
Oh, okay. This is the extra challenge mode of Lightning Round.
That's right.
It's like the Newlywed Game, but for
know.
podcast questions.
I'm going to answer for you if you answer for me.
Done.
Okay, good. All right. Their least favorite sound is any kiss Foley. So anytime you hear
it's
kissing
true.
Foley, anytime you hear kissing in a movie, any Foley of kissing, they fucking hate that.
I do. It's the worst.
Okay, check. So the stakes are high, Jay. She has correctly guessed yours.
I know you hate the word moist.
It's true.
Especially moist lips.
It's true. That's
the combo specifically
for me.
gives extra power.
Oh yeah, it used to give me ants on the brain. Like I couldn't even say it for a long time. But now I can with great hesitancy. But I'm not going to.
Well, I will bring that back up here in another couple of questions. What is your favorite word?
I'm going to pick one off the top of my head right now. Oh, actually, B, you go first. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I think you might say this and I don't want to take it from you.
What?
You
Because I
can
don't
both
know
say
what
the
I'm
same
gonna say.
thing. You can both have the same favorite word. That's very poetic and lovely.
My favorite word is when B says the word metropolises.
Oh my god. I think that's my favorite word too.
It's great. It's not the real word. It's just so it rhymed.
It's perfect. It's perfect though. It's real to me, and now I have committed, especially after this conversation, to only say it with that particular inflection for the rest of my life. And people will look at me weird, but I won't care. I'll be like, wow, I can immediately tell that you're not one of the cool people who has listened to the Planet Arcana podcast.
Also, in one episode, B said the word epic catastrophony,
Oh
and
my
that
god.
really made me
Yes.
laugh.
Also not a word. I guess castrophony. I think I heard that somewhere else and stole it.
They're good words, and they're very Planet Arcana words, which I think is why it ultra works, is because like if there's any place in the entirety of the multiverse where those words would exist and be pronounced that way, it is on Planet Arcana. So it works.
Yeah.
We may have already been spoiled on this one. What is your least favorite word?
Moist lips.
Yep.
I would say panties.
That's a good one. That is a good least favorite word, to be clear.
It just sucks, right?
Yeah, it does. It really does. I think I've literally talked to my wife about that specifically, and that we both do not care for it either, for a litany of reasons that we don't need to get into right now.
I like it.
And that's what makes you perfect collaborators, you know? I think any double DM podcast needs one panties DM and one anti-panties DM. You know, I think that's in the DMG.
It's the
It's
dark
like
side
the
of the light side.
who wears the pants question, but
Who says
like-
the panties?
who likes, oh god, it's the worst.
And gonna clip that out.
Who likes the panties in this relationship?
Yep. Who wears the panties? Who likes it's yeah, etc. etc.
Terrible.
What tabletop role-playing game or D&D monster have you not faced or run that you would love to?
Oh, Beholder.
Mm-hmm.
Vampire.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One day we'll be in a Curse of Strahd game.
Yes.
We'll get Cassie to run it for us.
Oh,
Cassie.
Just saying.
Yes.
Just
Holy
saying.
shit, that would be amazing.
Oh my god.
It would. But we'll talk about that after the show. Once we'll add it to the litany of new podcast ideas that we've come up with. What is your favorite adventure of all time? It could be just a story arc. It could be a single one-off. It can be whatever. But in terms of just going on a D&D or tabletop role-playing game adventure, what's your favorite?
My favorite TTRPG adventure would be spy in a court setting. So like courtly diplomacy / espionage / assassiny stuff.
Assassiny. Oof. I'm gonna say in Final Fantasy VII, when I know we said we were gonna do TTRPG ones, and I'm not. In Final Fantasy VII,
B said she was doing. You don't have to do jack shit.
In Final Fantasy VII, at the end of Disc 1, when you go to the place where the big event happens with Sephiroth, and you're like in the place where like all the homes kind of look like mushrooms or like underwater coral, and it's just like super freaking aesthetic. Anyway, that's my favorite adventure.
What's your favorite tabletop role-playing character of all time? And it could be, of course, an NPC. It could be someone you played. It can be someone you saw played.
Lozenge.
Lozenge.
I looked forward to that so much, and it paid off for me so much.
No, I can't say the one that I want to say because it hasn't aired yet.
It hasn't aired yet.
Okay, fine. You know what? In all honesty, Pemberton built Whistle, Peter's character from our homebrew campaign. I hate that boy so much, and I really enjoyed playing with him.
Our final lightning round question: what gives you hope?
Oh, this is gonna sound so stupid.
Hope isn't stupid. See, I already said a dumber thing, so you're good.
Gen Z, or Gen Z as you say south of the border.
Canadians.
But they give me hope. I think they're super fashionable and funny and cool, and all of them are exactly the same too, which is why I'm painting them with broad strokes. No, I'm just kidding. I would say overall, I'm just very much looking forward to being the older generation to that generation and seeing how they fuck shit up.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, I would say the movement that's kind of coming up that's all about like letting people explore who they are, even if where they explore doesn't get them to like a different destination, but just allowing people to kind of explore and find new parts of themselves. And the movement that's kind of coming up that's about just leaving space for people to make mistakes and to learn from them, most importantly. I feel like that was more eloquent in my head.
Sounded good to me.
Nathan, make me sound smart.
Just suddenly a slightly higher pitched Nathan voice comes on and answers that question.
Yeah. Yeah, perfect. You could do that for all my answers if you want to.
Okay, good. Yeah, we'll do some just a quick touch up, easy peasy. Pitch it up even. I won't do a different voice. We'll just modulate it. That'll work, no problem.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys, you've made it to the end. Thank you so friggin' much for your time. You guys are, as predicted, friggin' just the best, most loveliest of human beings. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Oh, no,
that was amazing.
Yeah.
I loved it.
That really was.
So, for having made it through the gauntlet, now's your time to promo that whole podcast thing that you're nominally here to talk about. Tell the people where they can find Planet Arcana and how to support you and all that great stuff.
Yeah, you can find us at Planet Arcana Pod on pretty much all of the social media. But if you want to get exclusive and intimate, I would definitely suggest checking out our Patreon. We have cool stuff that's like early access, but we're just starting up a mail club for 2021. Sorry. let me take that again. For 2022, which is the year that's coming up, next in line.
It's all staying in.
Yeah. And it's exclusive. We only have so many spots available. But if you sign up, you're going to get access to our bonus show where if you like this, you'll like our bonus show because it's a lot of us talking about total bullshit. And we're going to send you a letter every month, either from us or from one of the characters that we play. Handwritten. So if you check us out, planetarcana.com or at Planet Arcana Pod on all the social media, we make it very easy to find because we like to talk about it.
As well you should. I like to talk about it just as much, if not more, than talking about my own podcast. So in case that is at all an endorsement to anyone listening, Planet Arcana is my favorite. So go listen to it.
Follow Planet Arcana Pod on Twitter to see us tweet about Reckless Attack.
It's really just a lovely ecosystem that we've carved out where it's just us and like 3 other people just only tweeting about each other's stuff constantly. And it's really just really wonderful. But again, you guys are wonderful. You've always been wonderful. You gave us, and this is not the reason that we invited you on, but a meaningful moment for us was you were one of the first people to reach out kind of proactively, kind of out of nowhere, and just say, hey, we loved your show. And that was like a stunning thing for us. Like we had hopes that people would like it, of course, because that's why we were doing it. But we would also kind of, been ready to be semi-okay with it just being a thing that we did, right? That we put out into the world and look, we've created something, and that is in and of itself a thing that we are proud of and happy with. And then you guys out of nowhere reached out, and you were one of a handful of people at the time. I think it was even week 1 that we had put it out and said some truly incredible things that I think about once a week.
Oh.
And then I was like, well, I guess they said this nice thing, and so I should check out their podcast. And then turns out, oops, it's my new favorite podcast. So for unrelated reasons.
Oh, that's nice. They're
That's
good
true.
podcasts. Brent.
They are good podcasts.
But thank you all for listening. Thank you all for coming. Listen to Planet Arcana. Maybe listen to us if you feel like it. Hopefully you're already listening to us. Thank you, and see you all next time.
Bye-bye.